In every alchemist's laboratory, whether carved in stone, etched in parchment, or held within the quiet chambers of the mind, there is a moment of stillness, a moment when the fire dims, the vessel cools, and the seeker begins to wonder. What exactly is the treasure I am chasing? For centuries, storytellers have spoken of the philosopher's stone as a single shining miracle. But in the old manuscripts, in the Taoist treatises, the Hermetic text is smudged with centuries of ash and ambition. The truth is different. The great work did not pursue one treasure, it pursued two: a white stone born of purification, a red stone forged in fire, the moon and the sun, the queen and the king, two forces, opposites in nature, each incomplete without the other. Tonight, we open the pages of this ancient duality because to understand the heart of alchemy, you must first understand why every tradition, from Taoist Nadan to the Western magnum opus, insisted that enlightenment is not a single color, but a sequence, a marriage, a balance of two treasures that shape the seeker from the inside out. Alchemical two treasures. Welcome back to 12 Weird Nights, where each evening we slip into another pocket of history, mystery, and the strange systems humans built to make sense of the world. I'm Jane, your curator and host, and tonight we're stepping into one of the most symbol-rich traditions ever recorded, a discipline that blended chemistry, philosophy, cosmology, and the human psyche long before those words became separate fields. Tonight, we explore the ancient belief that real transformation, doesn't begin with gold. It begins with understanding the two treasures. Across Taoist internal alchemy, medieval Hermetic texts, Paracelsian medicine, and even Jungian psychology, thinkers describe a dual path at the core of the great work: a white treasure tied to purification, clarity, and stability, and a red treasure tied to fire, illumination, and final completion. In the West, these became the white stone and the red stone, two milestones in the magnum opus. In China, they appeared as true lead and true mercury, energetic forces hidden within the body. And in psychology, they surface as the anima and animus, the balancing of soul and spirit. Different languages, different metaphors, but the same underlying idea. You cannot reach enlightenment with only one half of yourself. Tonight we'll unfold these symbols one layer at a time, where they came from, what they represented, and why alchemists believed you had to master the white before you could ever touch the red. So dim the lights, let the candle flame steady, and let's begin our descent into the alchemical duality at the heart of the great work. What exactly are the two treasures? When people hear alchemy, most imagine a single prize, the philosopher's stone. One object, one miracle, one perfect red crystal that turns lead into gold. But the deeper you go into the manuscripts, the more you realize that this one stone is actually the final union of two separate treasures. Almost every major alchemical tradition describes duality. In Western Hermetism, the great work unfolds into the white stone and the red stone. In Taoist internal alchemy or Nadan, these appear as true lead and true mercury, not the physical metals, but energetic forces within the body. In Paracelsian medicine, they become the white elixir and the red elixir. And in Jungian psychology, they reemerge as the anima and animus, the soul and the spirit. Different names, different cultures, but always the same pattern. A passive, stabilizing lunar treasure and an active, fiery solar treasure. Let's define them in their classical form. The white stone or lapis albus emerges from the phase alchemist called albedo, the whitening. This treasure represents purification, clarity, stability, and healing of the mind. Historically, alchemists believed the white stone could transmute base materials into silver, the metal of the moon. And more symbolically, they said it could cure lunacy or disorders of the psyche aligning with Luna's influence on the mind. It is the foundation, the quieting of chaos, the cooling of the inner fire so a person can perceive truth clearly. The red stone or lapis rubeus comes from the final phase rubedo, the reddening. This treasure is associated with transformation, illumination, vitality, and the fullness of spiritual maturity. The red stone was said to transmute metals into gold, the metal of the sun. In medicinal texts, it was believed to heal all diseases and restore youth. It is heat, force, and the spark of completion. But alchemical texts warn something important. You cannot make the red without first completing the white. You cannot hold power without first achieving purity. You cannot reach illumination without stability. The red treasure burns if the vessel isn't ready, and that's why the white treasure always comes first. Across cultures, these two treasures appear again and again because they symbolize the fundamental balance of existence: moon and sun, stillness and motion, purity and strength, soul and spirit. You cannot complete the great work unless both parts of yourself, your clarity and your fire, are brought into harmony. And this is the essence of the two treasures. If Western alchemists search for a treasure in furnaces and flasks, Taoist alchemists of China search somewhere far more intimate, inside the human body. In Neidan or internal alchemy, the body itself is the laboratory, the breath is the fire, and the spirit is the metal waiting to be transformed. And unlike the Western tradition that speaks of three treasures, Jing, Qi, and Shen, high-level Taoist manuals often reduce everything into two essential forces, true lead and true mercury. But these aren't literal metals. They are inner qualities, movements of energy that shape our lives more than we realize. True mercury is associated with fire, the trigram Li, the heart, the restless spark of desire and thought. In the natural state, fire rises, burns, consumes. It is volatile and bright, forever moving, forever reaching. This is the part of us that feels passion, creativity, emotion, distraction, longing. When true mercury is controlled, the mind scatters, betrays sensations. Our thoughts flicker like candles in the wind. True lead is water, the trigram can, the kidneys, stillness, depth, and essence. In its natural state, water sinks downward, carrying with it the vital essence the body needs to survive. This is the part of us that holds memory, vitality, grounding, quiet strength. When water leaks away through stress, exhaustion, overexertion, we feel depleted. Our energy drains faster than we can replenish it. In the Taoist view, ordinary life is a constant entropy, fire rising uncontrollably, water sinking too quickly. Thoughts race upward, the essence drains downward, and the result? Destruction, instability, a gradual loss of vitality. To create the golden elixir, the Taoist alchemists must reverse this flow. Anchor fire with water, lift water with fire, unite stillness and movement within the body. This was described with poetic precision. True soil seizes true lead controls true mercury. This is the formula for reclaiming internal balance. Only when fire no longer drains the body, only when water no longer slips away, can the two treasures fuse into the elixir. One of the most beautiful metaphors in Neidan is the idea of the two eighths. In ancient Chinese measurements, 1 pound equals 16 ounces. The perfect elixir, according to the tradition, is formed from 8 ounces of true lead and 8 ounces of true mercury, a perfect equilibrium, yin and yang in equal measure, no force dominating the other. The result is a state described as silent and moving, not dead, but free from leakage, free from unnecessary agitation. It is the stillness of a lake at dawn, alive but perfectly calm. And here is where Taoist alchemy becomes radical. Despite centuries of association between alchemy and dangerous substances, Rilgar, sulfur, cinnabar, Neidan texts reject physical chemicals. The Cantong Chi warns against those who roast sulfur and urges practitioners to dispose of Rilgar. External substances, they say, lead to death, not immortality. Why? Because the true treasures are inside you. They always have been. The Taoist alchemist's task is not to force nature, but to harmonize it, balancing fire and water inside the human vessel until the spirit becomes whole. If the Taoist alchemists search within the body, the Western alchemists search within matter, in furnaces glowing red, in flasks sealed with wax, and in the colorful metamorphosis of metals heated over slow, unblinking fire. But beneath the smoke, symbols, and secrecy, they taught a truth that mirrors the East. There is no single philosopher's stone. There are two milestones, two treasures, each born from a different stage of the great work. The journey begins in darkness. In the West, all alchemical texts start with nigredo, the blackening, the decay, the breakdown, the symbolic death of old self. And out of this darkness comes the first treasure, the white stone or lapis albus. This phase called albedo represents purification, cleansing, clarity, and the stripping away of illusions. It is described in manuscripts as a whitish film, a pearl, or virgin's milk. The white stone embodies the lunar force, cool, reflective, and subtle. And its power? According to the text, the white stone can transmute base materials into silver, the moon's metal, and intriguingly, its medicinal power is very specific. It cures madness and disorders of the mind. Ancient writers believed the moon governed mental stability, so the perfected lunar treasure offered balance to the psyche, echoing the quieting, stabilizing quality of the white treasure across traditions. It clears the vessel, it prepares the ground, and it is the cleansing before illumination. Once the matter is purified, alchemists hit it again, carefully, patiently, moving into the phase called citrinitas, yellowing, and finally into rubedo, the reddening. The red stone or lapis rubeus is the heart of every alchemical legend. It is the treasure people think of when they imagine the philosopher's stone, vibrant, fiery, and alive with solar force. And its power? It transmutes metal into gold. It's the universal panacea, believed to heal all diseases, restore youth, and strengthen vitality. In mystical terms, it is illumination, integration, and birth of the perfected self. Some texts describe it as heavy red powder, others as red glassy stone that glows like embers. It is the culmination of every transformation the matter has endured. But as radiant as it is, the red stone cannot exist without the white. Western alchemists were clear: unless ye whiten, ye cannot make red. The red stone burns anyone who attempts to grasp it without completing the white phase. This wasn't just chemistry, it was symbolism. The body, or white, must be purified before the spirit, or red, can be awakened. The mind must be cleared before power can flow through it safely. The vessel must be stable before the fire of transformation can shine. Alchemists interpreted this not only as a rule for the laboratory but as a rule for life. Power without purity destroys. Illumination without grounding scatters. Fire without water consumes. The white stone is the foundation. The red stone is the completion. Together, they are the twin lights of the great work. To express these truths, medical manuscripts portrayed them as a royal pair. The red king, Sol, sulfur, fire, the active masculine principle. The white queen, Luna, Mercury, water, the receptive feminine principle. Their union, the chemical wedding, symbolizes the merging of the two treasures into the perfected stone. And like all powerful unions, it required surrender, dissolution, transformation, and rebirth. But that story belongs to the next part of our journey. If the white stone and the red stone are the treasures, then their union is the story that alchemists guarded with the greatest reverence. Not a literal marriage, but a symbolic one. A ritual dance between opposites that takes place between inside the vessel and inside the seeker. In illuminated manuscripts, this union is depicted again and again. A white queen standing upon the moon, serene and luminous. A red king crowned by the sun, radiant and fierce. They step toward one another not out of romance but out of necessity. To complete the great work, these two polar forces must be fused into a single perfected whole. The white queen, Luna, reflection, or water, she is the passive principle, Mercury in its material aspect. She cools, dissolves, clarifies. She is the vessel, the matrix, the calm depth where transformation can happen. Her gift is stability. Her realm is purification. She rules the white stone. The red king, soul, fire, and spirit. He is the active principle, sulfur, the element of heat and color. He brings intensity, power, vitality, and the spark that reddens the work. His gift is illumination. His realm is completion. He rules the redstone. Their union is never gentle. Alchemists describe their meeting as the coniunctio, the chemical wedding, but the word wedding is soft. This union is dissolution, death, fermentation, and rebirth. It begins with the king surrendering his rigid, fiery form. He dies into the queen, dissolving into her waters like metal melting into a bath. This dissolution symbolizes the ego, yielding to the deeper currents of the soul. Inside the vessel, they rot, blacken, break apart. This is Negredo, the dark night before the resurrection. But from the black mass rises something new. After the dissolution, the queen reigns. The matter purifies. The whiteness appears. The white stone forms from the ashes of their broken identities. The first treasure, the foundation for all things that follow. Once the matter is stable and pure, the king returns, not as he was, but transformed, red, radiant, sovereign. This is the birth of the red stone, the final treasure, the child of both king and queen. In alchemical symbolism, this reborn figure is sometimes the Rebis, the divine hermaphrodite, an androgynous being who contains both the stability of the moon and the fire of the sun. It represents the perfected human, the fully integrated self. Together, the king and queen teach a single truth. No transformation is complete unless opposites are reconciled, not dominated, not separated, but united. This symbolic union resonates far beyond the laboratory. In one sense, it is chemistry, in another, medicine, in another, psychology, and in all senses, it is a mirror. The king is your fire, the queen is your calm, the king is your ambition, the queen is your clarity, the king is your spirit, the queen is your soul. Alchemists, until these come together, until the fire has a vessel and water has direction, you cannot complete the great work. This wedding is the center of the whole tradition, the hinge upon which both the white and the red treasures turn. If the Hermetic alchemists sought spiritual gold and the Taoist alchemists sought inner balance, the physician alchemist Paracelsus sought something even more direct. Medicine that could heal the body as thoroughly as it healed the soul. He wasn't interested in wealth or gold making. He wanted the great elixir, a substance capable of restoring health, extending life, and strengthening the natural forces within the human body. To him, the two treasures were not symbols, not metaphors, but keys to healing. Paracelsus described the white and red treasures as tinctures, highly refined essences extracted from metals using the mysterious solvent known as the alkahest. But here's the fascinating part. The alkahest may not have been one substance. Scholars note that Paracelsus used alkahest more like a category of universal solvents, agents that could strip a material down to its innermost essence. From these, two powerful medicines emerge. The white tincture, associated with silver and lunar forces, cooling, clarifying, and purifying, and is supportive to the mind and the subtle energies of the body. It is also aligned with the white treasure. It was believed to purify the internal sun and moon within the patient. And the red tincture, extracted from gold or antimony, fiery, revitalizing, and invigorating. It is aligned with the red treasure. This tincture carried the solar force that strengthens life and expels disease. The white purifies, the red vitalizes. Together, they complete the work of healing in the body just as they do as in the alchemical vessel. Paracelsus thought that within the human body flows something he called liquor vitae, the fluid of life. This fluid, he believed, contained a complete microcosm of the universe, meaning the human body already had the blueprint of health inside it. The role of the white and red elixirs was not to impose healing from the outside, but to activate the inner sun and moon already within the body. It was a process of supporting nature, not fighting it. Paracelsus radically reframed the purpose of alchemy. Instead of chasing the philosopher's stone, he chased the perfect medicine. Instead of turning metals into gold, he turned herbs, minerals, and essences into remedies. Instead of seeking immortality in a literal sense, he sought longevity, vitality, and the restoration of balance. But even in this more physical approach, he remained deeply aligned with Hermetic symbolism. The white elixir cannot complete the work alone. The red elixir is too powerful without a foundation of the white. The human body, like the alchemical vessel, needs both treasures to become whole. These ideas echo the same duality we've seen all night: the moon and the sun, the queen and the king, the silver and the gold. Paracelsus believed that medicine and alchemy were ultimately the same journey. To heal sickness is to restore harmony. To restore harmony is to complete a part of the great work. And to complete the work is to rediscover the balance between the white and the red within ourselves, whether in a flask, in the breath, or in the pulse of human life. The two treasures are always there, waiting to be joined. By the 20th century, alchemy had mostly faded from laboratories, but it wasn't forgotten. It simply moved inward. Enter Carl Gustav Jung. This is psychoanalyst who looked at alchemical manuscripts and saw not chemistry, but psychology. He believed the ancient alchemists were not just projecting dreams onto matter. They were unconsciously mapping the inner processes of human psyche. To Jung, the two treasures, the white and the red, were not stones. They were states of the soul. Jung associated the White Queen with the anima, the inner feminine, the receptive part of the psyche, the realm of emotion, intuition, memory, and the unconscious. Just as the white stone purified matter, the white face in psychology purifies the mind. It means clearing projections, confronting the shadow, dissolving illusions, and grounding the psyche. This is the stage of clarity, the cooling of chaos, the quiet realization of what has always lived beneath the surface. In alchemical terms, this is albedo. In psychological terms, it is the beginning of healing. The Red King for Jung symbolized the animus, the inner masculine, the realm of logic, power, structure, and spirited action. Just as the red stone was the culmination of the great work, the red face in psychology is the emergence of self, the fully integrated, balanced, awakened center of the psyche. This is rubedo, the reddening. Here, the fire returns, but it is no longer destructive. It is directed, purposeful, and vital. The ego and the unconscious stop fighting and begin to cooperate. It is illumination without instability, power without distortion, and fire with a vessel. To Jung, the alchemical chemical wedding was a symbolic blueprint of what every human being must eventually face: the reconciliation of opposites within themselves. The conscious must meet the unconscious, emotion must meet structure, intuition must meet clarity, the inner moon must meet the inner sun. The inner marriage, or the conjunctio, is the final step of individuation. It is the internal version of the king and queen uniting, creating not an external stone, but an internal wholeness. When the white and red parts of the psyche merge, Jung says the self emerges, a version of you that is both grounded and illuminated, reflected and spirited, steady and alive. The ancient alchemists described this union as producing the rebris, the two-in-one being. Jung described it as wholeness. Different vocabulary, but same treasure. We may not be heating metals in crucibles or distilling essences over a flame, but the two treasures live on in modern life. Whenever we try to understand ourselves, whenever we try to heal old wounds or break old patterns, whenever we try to become more whole, we are reenacting the great work in psychological form. We lighten, we purify, we integrate, we ignite. And slowly, piece by piece, we turn the raw material of our lives into something brighter. This is the great work, not on metal, but on the human heart. One of the strangest and most beautiful things about the two treasures is this. Even when cultures never meet, never traded manuscripts, never shared teachers, they still imagine paired forces that mirror the white and the red. It's as if humanity everywhere sensed that life moves through dualities: a cooling treasure and a warming treasure, a passive foundation and an active completion, a moon and a sun. Let's take a small tour around the world. In the Hindu epics, specifically the Mahabharata, Malta. The god of wealth, Kubera, possesses two sacred treasures known as nidis, the Shankha or conch, symbolizing order, power, and the preservation of life, and the Padma or the lotus, symbolizing purity, spiritual unfolding, and creation. The parallels are striking. The Shankha carries the active, stabilizing nature of the red treasure, and the Padma carries the cooling, clarifying purity of the white, material and spiritual power and purity, two halves of a whole. In the Middle Ages, European lapidaries, books about the magical properties of stones, describe white stones and red stones in ways that eerily echo alchemical lore. White stones calmed storms, soothed the mind, and protected against harmful intentions. Red stones in some texts were said to bring victory, strengthen the body, and aid in all good endeavors. Light and heat, mind and body, lunar and solar. These ideas drifted through folklore like shared memories, even when the alchemists themselves wrote far more cryptically. The two treasures even survive in casual modern mythology, in video games, fantasy novels, and fictional magic systems. Red potions give health, strength, or fire-based abilities. White or blue potions provide clarity, mana, purification, or mental restoration. This color coding appears across countless franchises, echoing the symbolic logic that the West and East articulated centuries ago. Even when we were consciously thinking about alchemy, alchemy continues thinking through us. From Chinese Nadan to European Hermeticism to Paracelsian medicine to Jungian analysis to myths in India and magical stones in Middle Ages, we keep returning to the same pattern. Two forces, two treasures, two ways of being human. One that cools, purifies, softens, stabilizes, one that ignites, empowers, completes, and transforms. Some cultures call them water and fire. Some call them soul and spirit. Some call them queen and the king. Some call them silver and gold. But across thousands of years, we keep telling the same story. The wholeness comes not from choosing one or the other, but from learning how to bring them together. As I reach the end of this journey through fires, moons, metals, and metaphors, I kept thinking about how these ancient traditions weren't really obsessed with gold or immortality at all. They were obsessed with balance. The white treasure and the red treasure, the cooling and the warming, the softening and the strengthening, the moonlight and the sunrise. They feel less like distant esoteric symbols and more likely the daily rhythm of being human. Some days we need clarity, some days we need courage. Most days we need a little of both. And maybe that's the real great work, not turning lead into gold, but learning how to hold both our quiet parts and our fiery parts without letting either one overwhelm the other. Because in the end, the two treasures aren't outside us. They were always meant to be found within. And with that, we close the seventh night of our 12 Weird Nights. If you've read Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, you might already feel how deeply that story echoes everything we've talked about tonight. Santiago spends the entire novel searching for a treasure he believes is waiting somewhere far away, hidden under foreign skies, guarded by omens he doesn't yet understand, and along the way, he hears whispers about a mysterious master, the alchemist, a figure who can turn lead into gold and reveal the secrets of the world. But Santiago isn't looking for this alchemist because he wants gold, not really. He seeks him because he believes the alchemist holds the final key, the last piece of clarity and courage he needs to complete his personal legend. The alchemist represents the finished work, the red treasure in human form. Someone who has already merged knowledge and spirit, moon and sun, white stone and red. Santiago wants guidance. He wants confirmation that he is capable. He wants someone who can show him how to see the invisible thread tying everything together. And here's the beautiful twist. The alchemist doesn't teach him how to make gold. He teaches him how to trust his heart, the omens, the journey, the subtle language of the world. Because like the two treasures of alchemy, Santiago first needed the white clarity to recognize his fears, and then the red courage to face what stood before him. And in the end, after deserts, loss, danger, revelation, Santiago discovers the truth every alchemist eventually faces. The treasure he crossed the world for was waiting for him at the very place he began, but he could only see it after he became the person he was meant to become. That's the real heart of Coelho's story. and it mirrors alchemy perfectly. The great work is never about the gold outside you, it's about the transformation inside you. You return to your own beginning, luminous, clarified, and entirely new. And with that, we close the seventh night of our 12 Weird Nights journey. Thank you for sitting with me under these twin lights. If tonight's exploration stirred your curiosity a little deeper, I place a handful of books in the show notes. Texts that open the door wider into the world of alchemy, symbolism, and the long lineage of seekers who tried to understand what it means to change from the inside out. If you're enjoying this ritual, it would mean so much if you follow the show, share this episode with someone who loves the mysterious side of history, or leave a comment or rating. Little gestures like that help this tiny corner of the internet grow. And if you'd like to support the show directly, you can do that too. All the details are waiting for you in the notes. We'll keep walking through these curious corridors together night after night. And next time, we pick up the thread again. Until then, stay curious, stay luminous, and I'll meet you on night 8.